over the weekend, 2 Minnesota state legislators were assassinated. 2 more were injured by a psychopathic conservative freak named Vance Bolter. This guy impersonated a police officer and stalked these victims. He had a list of 45 elected representatives, and I believe some folks on that list were pro-choice advocates. He was potentially planning on doing a mass murder at a No Kings protest in Minnesota. I have some reporting on this courtesy of ABC, and then, of course, I have some additional commentary to provide as well after.
The chilling new images after that horrific shooting of 2 Minnesota state lawmakers. Their spouses shot too. One couple was shot and killed. The other couple shot multiple times. They have survived this. Tonight, prosecutors are now calling this a political assassination, and tonight they're describing this as the stuff of nightmares, that he stalked his prey. A security camera at one of the lawmakers' homes capturing images of the suspect wearing a latex mask and an officer's badge. Tonight, we have also now learned the suspect allegedly went to 4 homes that night, posing as an officer. Tonight, he is in.
I just want to say one thing. Fuck Senator Mike Lee from Utah. You're a bitch-ass motherfucker, and fuck all of the other conservative commentators, media people, and elected officials who were making light of this situation. You guys are fucking despicable. If we lived in a goddamn functioning country, all of you would be removed from your positions and forced to work in the fucking mines. Mike Lee, not only are you unfit to be an elected a public servant here in the United States, you are unfit to work at a goddamn Arby's. Fuck you.
Custody. At one home, former Minnesota House Speaker Democrat Melissa Hortman and her husband Mark were both killed. At another home, State Senator John Hoffman and his wife Yvette were shot multiple times. They somehow survived this. Tonight, we have learned at the 4th home where the Hortmans were shot and killed, the suspect fled while officers responding were opening fire, and he left behind his vehicle with flashing lights, authorities believe all part of his disguise. Inside the vehicle, they found rifles, ammunition, a list of more than 45 elected officials. After nearly 2 days of searching, the suspect was tracked to this remote spot near his home, and when it became clear he was surrounded, authorities say 57-year-old Vance Bolter, a husband and father, surrendered, crawling across that field to the officers waiting for him. Tonight, he's facing state and federal charges. ABC's Faith Abube leading us off. She's in Minneapolis tonight.
Tonight, authorities calling this man, Vance Bolter, a cold-blooded killer after he allegedly stalked, surveilled, and shot 2 longtime Minnesota state lawmakers and their spouses, triggering the largest manhunt in state history.
It is no exaggeration to say that his crimes are the stuff of nightmares. Bolter stalked his victims like prey.
Bolter appearing before a judge today where prosecutors revealed chilling new details of a, quote, targeted political assassination designed to inflict fear, injure, and kill members of the Minnesota legislature and their families.
If the Justice Department were, I guess, principled, I would say, they would hit this guy with a terrorism charge and not just fucking Luigi Mangione. Because by the government's definition of terrorism, or I guess by the definition of terrorism, this is a terrorist attack. This was a politically motivated killing of 2 people and the attempted killing of 2 more, literally for the sake of implementing fear.
It was a targeted attack against individuals who answered the call to public service.
Court documents say the 57-year-old husband and father started his alleged murderous rampage around 2 a.m., disguised as a police officer and heavily armed with firearms and body armor. Bolter also wearing what authorities call a hyper-realistic mask made of latex, driving an SUV decked out in emergency lights and a license plate that read police. Investigators say this is Bolter banging on the door of Democrat State Senator John Hoffman, shouting, "Police, open up." The senator and his wife realizing he was an imposter.
When Senator Hoffman attempted to push Belter out and stop him from entering his home, Belter shot him repeatedly.
Their front door riddled with bullets, the senator's daughter calling 911, setting off the massive manhunt. Belter allegedly driving to the home of another elected official. Investigators say this surveillance shows him at the door, that lawmaker not home. Belter then allegedly driving to his third target 5 miles away.
We're going to get into the misinformation aspect on this. I actually have an article from The Guardian that talks about that specifically. In the immediate aftermath of this, because conservatives are such fucking freaks, they were pinning this guy as a far leftist, as like a fucking Maoist third worldist who killed these two people because of how they voted to repeal healthcare from undocumented immigrants. That lie obviously fucking fell apart. Melissa Hortman did vote yes on that resolution. The other congressman did not. But also, once the details of this began to come out, this was not something that was just put together. Like, he didn't wake up that morning and be like, you know what, I'm gonna fuck my life up and go out and catch a couple of bodies. No, this guy had been plotting to do this. He had an extensive list of targets. He had personal information on them. I mean, for God fucking sakes, he had a goddamn fake police car because of his work as a fucking security contractor. And then, of course, more and more stuff starts coming out about this guy. You see him on stage as a evangelical. His roommate was like, "Oh yeah, no, he loved Trump. I would catch him gooning to Trump like late at night."
Court documents say an officer saw Belter in his car while conducting a wellness check on the state senator who lived there and believed that the SUV was in fact a law enforcement officer. By the time backup arrived, Belter had left the scene. Officials say around 3:30 a.m., Belter heading to his fourth stop, the home of former Minnesota House Speaker, Democrat Melissa Hortman. Officers were also there doing a wellness check. A neighbor capturing the showdown from her window as Belter allegedly fired several rounds at police, forcing himself into the home.
He repeatedly fired into the house, and when he entered, he murdered Representative Hortman and her husband, Mark.
Police say Belter escaped on foot. Authorities tonight sharing what they found inside that car. Assault-style rifles, several rounds of ammunition, and a medical kit suggesting Belter may have planned to be on the run for a while.
Belter also had in his car notebooks containing a list of more than 45 Minnesota state and federal elected officials, including Representative Hortman.
Authorities tonight say Belter extensively planned his rampage for months, including making lists like this one, identifying several...
For months. But nah, he was just a leftist who was upset that undocumented immigrants were getting their health care ripped away from them. Yeah, suck my fucking balls.
Websites that allow users to search for home addresses and family member names. Belter captured late Sunday, just an hour from the crime scene and roughly a mile from his home, spotted earlier by an officer and on this trail camera obtained by our affiliate KSTP.
We have an arrest warrant.
Police using a loudspeaker ordering him to surrender.
Stand up with your hands empty and above your head.
And David, investigators believe this was a complex and chilling plan to kill public officials. 45 lawmakers on that alleged target list, mostly or all Democrats. Had it not been for some intuitive officers, they say this could have been much worse. David.
Faith Abube there in Minneapolis for us. Faith, thank you.
You had people like Alex Jones come out and immediately begin spreading misinformation. And this is why, This is why conservatism is so dangerous. I'm not talking about the political violence that was the cause of this, because I do have some thoughts on that as well that I will get to a little bit later. But no one cares about the truth when the lie is more entertaining. And unfortunately, conservatives online are masters at controlling the narrative. They hopped on this and started spreading misinformation immediately. Why did they do this? It's because they have no shame and they have no integrity. If you were a actually principled commentator, journalist, whatever you say, even though those are two entirely different things, you would wait to have more information on this situation. On Saturday is when this happened. And on Saturday, I think it was Saturday. It was either Friday or Saturday. I think it was Saturday. I recorded a show that day. And I explicitly did not talk about this topic because it was a developing story. There would be nothing to gain from just speculating about the motives for this guy, what his political ideology was. None of that is irrelevant because two people are fucking dead and two other people almost fucking died. Now we can have this conversation because everything is clear. We have this from his roommate that says in no uncertain terms, yeah, this guy loved Trump.
Well, everyone's calling him a Democrat. He's not a Democrat. He would be offended if people called him a Democrat. He, because of this board thing he was on for Governor Walz, it wasn't to serve. He was just serving the community. But
that also debunks the fucking conspiracy that Tim Walz knew this guy. No, they didn't fucking know each other. This dipshit was just put as like he was put as like the chief nose picker or some shit. That was another thing that conservatives tried to run with, that Tim Walz appointed this guy and he's like complicit in the murder of these two fucking sitting legislators.
I can't believe a political issue would cause him to do such thing.
Did he ever bring up the senator or the representative who were targeted?
Like I was saying, no, he never talked about that. I didn't know those people. I didn't recognize their names.
Any politicians he mentioned?
Well, he mentioned Nancy Pelosi. He didn't like Jim Walz.
Jim Walz?
Didn't like Jim Biden. But
Tim Walz? What would you say about him?
well, I mean, nothing. It's just normal. Well, I don't like this that Tim Walz did this. I don't like that they did that.
Did he mention the protests that were...
He's like, I didn't like that. He's like, I don't like that Tim Walz provided free breakfast and lunch to all K through 12 students. I don't like that Tim Walz passed paid family leave. He's like, I don't like that Tim Walz allowed nursing home workers to collectively bargain for themselves. Like, regardless, this person is still a freak. Even if you don't like Tim Walz for doing that stuff, like, I don't know what to do with you. You're an unserious individual. But to go out and commit political violence for simply not liking somebody puts you in a realm of freak that is only you need like serious mental help.
Planned for
He
yesterday?
never mentioned the protest.
What did he
What do
think
you
of
make
Trump?
of everything that's happened here and the fact
Maybe
that
I
you
mentioned it to him, but I don't think he mentioned anything.
What would you tell him?
I would tell him to surrender himself so he can be taken alive, because he's like my best friend, so I don't want him to be killed. I don't want him to kill anyone else, you know? So I think if I saw him, I could talk him down, but I don't know where he is.
And did he listen to any particular podcasts or TV shows or anything online that concerns you?
Well, you listen to Infowars, but I kind of said, well, it's like 50% truth. And, I kind of said, don't take everything.
50% is way too high, and yet once again, Alex Jones fucking responsible for for more trauma. Like, dude, if Alex Jones were not a CIA asset, he would be locked up by now. I'm convinced.
I mean, they're on for some things, but some things are way off.
Did he talk much about Trump? And what did he say himself?
I was a Trump supporter. Voted for Trump. He liked Trump. I like Trump. And,
We have some further evidence, courtesy of Kyle Kalinske, rebuking the idea that this gentleman was a Democrat. He is, Mike Lee. He deleted the, oh my God. Mike Lee deleted his posts. Wait, no. What the fuck? So, still, Mike Lee can go fuck himself, definitely. But what did he delete? Wait, oh my God, did he even like? He tweeted. Oh my God, he tweeted these tweets and didn't even say anything about it. Oh my God, what a fucking loser. He said he posted pictures of Vance Bolter standing on someone's porch, on the porch of one of the representatives, and was like, "This is what happens when Marxists don't get their way." And then he posted another picture of him, of the assassin, and said, "Nightmare on Wall Street." Like, how fucking depraved are you? And his bitch ass deleted those tweets. Why am I calling him a bitch? It's very simple. If you're gonna say something, stand on it. I don't care if it's wrong and you shouldn't have tweeted it. You should leave it up. You should leave it up. And you're a fucking bitch, Mike Lee. Straight up. You're a fucking loser. So Kyle Kalinske quote tweeted that and said, "This right-wing terrorist murdered Minnesota Democrats, is a registered Republican, supported Trump, is a fundamentalist Christian, is an anti-abortion extremist, had a big list of all Democrats to kill. Mike Lee is a demented, vile, lying cretin. He should be censured and forced to resign." Of course, the GOAT, Kyle Kalinske, fucking cooked Mike Lee's bitch ass. And I stand by that. Mike Lee, you are unfit to fucking work at an arcade. You are unfit to unfit to fix gym equipment. So as a result of this murder of one sitting legislator, pardon me, the Minnesota Republicans have now gained a House majority by political assassination. One of the reasons why Tim Walz's policy success was why it was marveled at, was not only the scope of it, not only the type of legislation that was passed, like legitimately like social democratic legislation, but how Minnesota Democrats were doing this with a 1-seat majority. A 1-seat majority in Congress. And they were passing legislation after legislation. It was marvelous because Democrats under Barack Obama had a supermajority. And all they did year after year was increase the military budget and renew the Patriot Act. And now Republicans are going to have that slim majority. Obviously, that is a side point here because 2 people are dead. Let's not get that twisted. But what pushes somebody to political violence? I think it's a very fascinating question because over the last couple of years, we've seen an increase in political violence. Just this year alone, we had Luigi Mangione killing Brian Thompson. I know that wasn't this year. I don't think it was 2025. It was late 2024, but whatever. We had the attack on Josh Shapiro's house. Both of those are obviously politically motivated. Luigi's was left-wing political violence against Josh Shapiro, and against the Minnesota legislators was right-wing political violence. But there are well-documented cases of these acts becoming more and more prevalent. And I do think that there are legitimate reasons for this that extend beyond people being mentally disturbed, because you're going to have mentally disturbed people in the population anyway. Like, part of that is why crime happens. Sometimes it's systemic, which is why people, they rob, they steal, they they break into stores. But other times it's because people are just not mentally well and they're unable to get the necessary help that they need. I believe that that also extends to people who commit political violence. Regardless of how well thought out they may be or how well buttoned up they may seem, they are still disturbed because normal people do not assassinate lawmakers. It doesn't happen. I despise Republicans. I know people that despise Republicans. I know people that despise Democrats, but none of them, none of my friends, none of my family have ever even thought about committing political violence. In fact, nobody who I believe to be a serious person condones political violence, because that is not how that is not how you should be trying to advance a particular political agenda. All it does is sully whatever movement you're looking to perpetuate. It's the lack of mental health treatment that people have access to in this country. It is the degradation of social safety nets. It's really just the erosion of our societal fabric as a whole. But I think what plays more of a role is how desensitized people are to violence. And I'm not talking about through movies or through video games or TV shows. I'm talking about how the United States government, for the last fucking forever, especially in modern American history, has normalized the use of violence. The State Department does political violence all the time overseas, whether it was in Vietnam, whether it was in Cuba, whether it's in Korea, Afghanistan, Iraq, the Gulf states, Desert Storm. All of that is politically motivated. And the State Department and the military industrial complex has spent years and an untold amount of resources on manufacturing consent around this type of violence, attempting to say, no, political violence is okay when I do it, but not when they do it. As a result, society has become increasingly desensitized to real world violence. It is the dehumanization of people. It is the lack of empathy that has been that it is the lack of empathy that hasn't been instilled into our population. The United States of America is a uniquely violent place. It is an unimaginably barbaric country, especially by modern standards. I know that Europe has something to say about that, definitely, but that was I don't know, listen. I'm talking about within, like, again, modern history. The level of barbarism conducted by the United States is unrivaled by virtually any country in modern history. There are serious societal problems that arise from that. Even throughout the 60s and the 70s, which were times that were particularly tumultuous, we did not see this level of political violence. And I'm talking about a time that saw people like Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X and Fred Hampton and John F. Kennedy get assassinated. We don't have outright assassinations anymore done by the CIA and the FBI, but they don't have to do that when normal people are taking those actions into their own hands. It really is just the degradation of society here in the United States of America, which is a really, like, meathead thing to say, and I understand that, but it's just the system has dehumanized everybody, and it has isolated and alienated people to a degree that, they're kind of just like, fuck it, who cares? I want to track back to the misinformation that was perpetuated by right-wingers, and I found this article from The Guardian titled, "How the Right Spread Brutal and Cruel Misinformation After Minnesota Lawmaker Killings. The Right-Wing Media Ecosystem Spins Up Narratives to Serve Their agendas after tragic events, regardless of accuracy." Tina Smith, a Minnesota senator, confronted Mike Lee, a Utah senator, on Monday to tell him directly that his social media posts fueled ongoing misinformation about a shooting that killed her friend. Lee's posts, which advanced conspiracies that a Minnesota assassin was a Marxist and blamed the state's governor for Melissa Hortman's death, were among many threads of false or speculative claims swirling online after the killings. Smith told Lee that his posts were brutal and cruel, much nicer than what I would have said to Senator Lee, because if I were a sitting senator, I would have said the exact same thing that I said to him at the beginning of this segment. He should think about the implications of what he's saying and doing. It just further fuels this hatred and misinformation, she said. She wanted him to hear from her directly how painful it was to see his words after the brutality her state endured. Lee didn't say much according to Smith, and seemed surprised to be confronted. Yeah, because he's a fucking bitch. He's a pussy. He's a goober. These right-wingers, they pretend that they're like all hard and real Americans because they post online. But the second that they get a little bit of smoke in the real world, they fucking bitch and moan and cry. It is not like that in the real world. If you say some dumb shit online, no one's going to smack the shit out of you, or no one's like, potentially going to smack the shit out of you. Just clarifying for the intelligence agencies, I'm not saying that I would put my hands on Mike Lee. I'm being hyperbolic here. I have to be entertaining. But if you're out in the real world and you say some out-of-pocket shit, somebody might put their hands on you. And it's for that reason that people don't say dumb shit in the real world, or they think twice about what they're going to say in the real world. What you see online is not reflective of real life. Mike Lee said that heinous and disgusting shit online because he won't say it in real life, because he's a fucking pussy. Within hours of the shootings, right-wing social media accounts with millions of followers manufactured false conspiracy theories about the suspect and his motives, falsely portraying the man whose friends say he is an evangelical Christian Trump supporter as a radical left-wing assassin, and attempting to paint him as a political ally of Tim Walz, the Democratic governor and former vice presidential candidate. It was the latest example of a right-wing media ecosystem that swiftly spins up narratives that serve their political agendas after tragic events, regardless of accuracy, and does not correct them after further evidence shows them to be untrue or incomplete. Elected officials such as Lee and others often share in the spreading rumors, lending legitimacy to these claims. Vance Bolter, 57, was captured on Sunday after he allegedly killed Hortman, a Democratic House Speaker, and her husband, and wounded John Hoffman, a state senator, and his wife, Colin Rugg, an engagement farmer on X. I will say this about The Guardian. When they are not covering Israel-Palestine, they fucking cook. They fucking cook, because that is all Colin Rugg is. He is a fucking goober and a grifter. Advanced a debunkable theory to his followers on X that Hortman was killed over healthcare policy for undocumented immigrants, implying the violence came from the left. He shared a video that ping-ponged around the right-wing internet. Of Hortman, emotional, describing a vote to repeal healthcare eligibility for undocumented adults. Missing from the post was the context. Hortman supported this care, only voting for its repeal to pass a state budget in an evenly split state house. Hoffman, the state senator, had not voted to repeal the provision. Right-wing social media personality Mike Cernovich, with 1.5 million followers, escalated the lie by suggesting Walz ordered the assassination. He hasn't taken the post down and has continued to advance the claims, posting on Monday that, quote, Democrats know they are now seen as the party of political violence, so their propaganda agents are trying to shift the blame. It won't work. These people are so fucking despicable. They are, in my eyes, dirt. I have negative respect for these fucking grifters who only care about drama farming online. They have no interest in actual policy. They have no interest in real world politics. They are fucking terminally online losers. Laura Loomer, the far-right conspiracy theorist and Trump whisperer, posted that Walz's goons are now assassinating lawmakers who support legislation Walz opposes, and called the Democratic Party a terrorist organization. Loomer and others on the right also tried to tie Bolter to the No Kings protest against the Trump administration. Officials found rudimentary signs in the suspect's vehicle that said No Kings, an indication he knew of the event, not that he would attend it as a protester. There is some evidence that says that he was going to a potential No Kings protest to do more violence and that Tim Walz and local law enforcement advised people or urged people not to attend any protests since he was still on the loose at the time. Peon Butts, a frequent poster of unverified right-wing claims, amplified the narrative to his 200 million followers, quote tweeting claims that the left killed Hortman and that the far left is murderously violent. The lies ignore overwhelming evidence of Bolter's actual politics. His roommate David Carlson told reporters that Bolter voted for Trump and was a strong supporter of the president. Other longtime friends told local media Bolter was right-leaning. While Minnesota voters don't list party affiliation, he was registered as a Republican in Oklahoma in 2004. Bolter's own recorded sermons expose his extremist views. Preaching in Congo in 2023, he is recorded as saying, "The churches are so messed up, they don't know abortion is wrong." He ranted against the queer people as, quote, confused, claiming, quote, "The enemy has gotten so far into their mind and their soul." His alleged hit list included abortion providers and pro-choice advocates. Influencers seized on Bolter's appointment to the state board, branding him as a Walz appointee to misleadingly suggest a personal relationship. In reality, Bolter was first appointed by Walz's predecessor, who was a Democrat, in 2016 to a 60-member volunteer advisory board. Walz did, however, renew the appointment in 2019, considering a routine administrative decision for one of hundreds of such positions. Walz did not know Bolter. Quote, "It was the equivalent of calling a Sunday school volunteer an appointee of the bishop," a local reporter X. Right-wing X-user Viva Frey, with more than 700,000 followers, posted a thread casting doubt on Bolter being a Trump supporter. The account has continued to post about the shootings, attempting to tie Walz to Bolter and his wife, Jennifer. A different Jennifer Bolter interned in Walz's congressional office, though Frey has not accepted that fact. Of course they didn't, because they're fucking stupid. I think, no. They're ignorant. I think to call them stupid in this case absolves them of what they're doing. This is all done intentionally. They are being purposefully ignorant in this regard. None of these dipshits are stupid about what they're doing. They may be stupid about politics overall and about policy overall, but their actions on social media are very intentional. Quote, "Do you believe Governor Tim Walz spokesperson when they claim that the Jennifer Bolter who interned for Tim Walz in 2010 is not the same Jennifer Bolter who was married to suspected assassin domestic terrorist Vance Bolter?" the account asked in a poll. Like, what do we do with these people? There is a not small portion of the country who is just like, who just believes whatever the fuck is presented to them and has no willingness to dive deeper into any situation. Like, there's like a sizable portion of the country that is just cooked. That's the best way to explain it. They see what's going on in the country and either go out and commit political violence, or they see political violence be done and like condone it, or like don't outright condemn it. On Monday, post showing a man at a protest with a shirt with the gun that says "Resist" falsely claimed the man was Bolter. "Yeah, libs, sorry. He's one of you. Keep saying he's not. No one believes you," said one post that got more than 2 million views. The actual man in the picture debunked it, saying he was at No Kings rally in Texas in the photo, making clear it was not Bolter. This is all amplified by Elon Musk, by the way. I firmly believe that if this was old Twitter, there would certainly be some conspiracies floating around, but it wouldn't be all over my fucking timeline. Elon is intentionally boosting this type of content. Whereas previously, this stuff would get organic reach from people dunking on how fucking stupid its perpetuators are. Local Republican officials have largely not contributed to the rumors, in some cases pushing back on the narratives. Yeah, do you know why? Because these people go outside and they've met these fucking people. And they may have not liked their views, but they were colleagues with these people. They knew Melissa Hortman. They potentially knew her spouse. They spent a lot of time together legislating. Again, they may have not agreed with these people, but they saw them as that. People, this is why it is so important for you to fucking go outside and interact with actual human beings. Remember, You are dealing with real human beings. It's okay that if you disagree with me and you want to call me, you know, a fucking cuck or whatever, that's fine. Like, name calling is whatever. But when it gets to actual violence, that is unacceptable and it's condemnable in every way, shape, or form. Harry Niska, a Republican floor leader in the Minnesota House, said on X that he often has and will continue to criticize his policies, Walz's policy and rhetoric, quote, but there is no responsible basis to attribute to him any of the evil acts committed by Vance Bolter. We will see what happens in the aftermath of this, not necessarily talking about how the Minnesota House will look to fill these seats, but more so what the case entails for Vance Bolter. I'm very interested to see how if Pam Bondi involves herself in this, and if, you know, the Trump administration involves themselves in it, because so far the most we've gotten from Donald Trump is that Tim Walz is fucking kooky